The first time I had ever gotten into Vanguard was around 2018. I had spent $150 on a full Pale Moon Hari deck. It was a lot of money for me at the time, and I had to set aside money for quite a while, but I thought it was worth it to get to spend time playing card games with my friends. It was a lot to get into, as the game mechanics were weird compared to my first card game, Yu-Gi-Oh! But it was fun nevertheless. 2 weeks later, Bushiroad announced that they were rebooting the game and rotating out all previous cards for the first time. This was due to all sorts of complaints, most of which I gather were about power creep, or maybe it was rotated just to do something about the low player numbers. But at that point in time, the game had lost all interest for me, despite how much potential fun I could have playing the game. The rotated cards would become part of a new Vanguard format called Premium, a format that has never really climbed out of the toxic abyss that got it rotated in the first place. And I wouldn't get back into Vanguard until the release of Overdress, where a friend had to hand me a fully built deck to get me into the game. I enjoyed the format more than I thought, as the format perfectly encapsulated the stupid fun and casual aspect of card games that was missing for me from Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic. I thought it was so fun, I decided to once again try Premium format and dip into V Premuim format, which was the format that was created after the second reboot of the game. What I discovered playing the format is a cesspit of toxic mechanics, an uncaring parent company, really stupid inflated prices, and a toxic elitist player base. These issues would slowly encapsulate more and more of each format. These are some issues that plague every card game at times, but in Vanguard's case, these issues cut a lot deeper than they should otherwise have. Player numbers are down for every event. Sales are down dramatically for Vanguard, falling even behind newer games like Digimon and Flesh and Blood. The largest online retailer, TCG Player, moved Vanguard off its front page. Promo cards are almost unattainable due to the lack of official events. These are not just a brief one-off event. These are a trend. In simpler terms, Vanguard's player base is in a decline. This decline comes from a variety of issues. Vanguard has always been a smaller card game, and as such, it has a unique set of challenges. Things that aren't issues for other card games become dramatic problems in a game like Vanguard. For example, pricing. Vanguard's pricing issues come from a very unique place. It's an insanely low supply market combined with legacy formats which need rare cards. We can separate price problems into a few areas, but first an explanation. When I say Vanguard is expensive, sure, $200 to $400 is not a lot when compared to Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic's $800+ decks. Premium, where I can't go to a locals consistently, it's a struggle to find people to play with outside of events, and where Bushiroad will schedule its events on the same day as other major events, that $400 is a lot more than it should be. And more so, it's a very stupid barrier to entry, and it's still more than what a card game should cost. I get it, we all hate the poor, but come on. For Standard, the introductory format for players, a $200 to $400 price tag is ridiculous gatekeeping, especially with most of these prices coming from one or two different cards. While the higher secondary market prices for a card game might be good for investors and retailers, it stops newer players from getting into the game. The price is bad for Standard due to the low numbers of Vanguard product being opened. Very few stores are currently doing case openings to resell product, and smaller consumer purchases aren't making up the slack. The lower supply means that fewer people will compete, resulting in lower prices. Price inflation is also due to the large number of higher rarity cards in a set. A total of 15 triple rares creates variance, with some cards being $30 to $40 and some being completely worthless. This is always a problem in card games, but Vanguard, with an extremely large number of high rares and cheaper price boxes, the staple triple rares that every deck needs get really out of hand with price. For premium formats, the issue lies with Bushiroad's reprint policy. There are cards seeing competitive play which haven't been reprinted in 5+ years. For a game like Vanguard, where these print runs are already smaller, that's insane. It's not uncommon to see certain cards just not have listings on online stores. The once-a-year premium reprint set is a good start, but it's not close to solving the issue. Also, the VR reprint policy is insane and jacking up prices pointlessly on cards. A lot of people I know can't get into V Premium because of the pricing. How's that gonna help shops, which the policy was originally created to do? But if you really want stupidity, let's look at exclusive promos. Bushiroad prints exclusive cards and effects as promos to drive up the abysmally low player turnout at their events. Promos for Vanguard are either unplayable filler or designed to fix key problems in decks. Early on in Overdress, this problem was pretty large, but you could still get the promos, even if it was $20 a pop. That's changed recently. But before I get into that, in Premium, where the event turnout was negligible, you'd be lucky to see even one copy of the promo if you never went to an event. This here is Gear Puppy Protecting Memories. This card was used in what was one point a very strong turn skip loop that was arguably tier 1 to a tier 0 deck at the time. One of the reasons this deck was not super popular in that format is because Gear Puppy was released as a shop tournament promo, right before events. Despite this card being fully legal in major events at the time, the card was nowhere to be be seen online, and most local shops didn't have their premium shop tournaments before the big events. This means that some players who just got lucky outside of the game with their event timings got a substantial benefit over those who just happened to not be in a particular place at a particular time. It wasn't even a money issue, it was a supply issue. Eventually the card would slowly start to drift into supply after a ban list. This should have never been a problem in the first place. It happens a lot with Vanguard. Look at Pursuit Assault and every new promo for the glitter decks and Overdress. Results of the experiment henceforth is a necessary card for a mid-tier deck called Eva. This card goes for about $90 each. A player has to decide between paying rent or playing a mid deck that looks really fun. The reason for this pricing has to do a lot with the only 13 different listings of the card. There's not enough supply because players aren't going to events. What's worse is my connections to local game stores state that it can take anywhere from 6 months to a year to get registered officially with Bushiroad to get promos and buy product cheaper, disincentivizing new stores from carrying the card game. In this economy, betting on 6 months ahead is extremely risky for the already shaky local game store. Bushiroad's Vanguard events are failing, or have been in a state of failing since pre-2020 times. A majority of card stores don't host events for this game. Unless your store had a dedicated Vanguard community for years, your store will almost certainly not develop one, no matter how hard you push for it. Vanguard exists as a card game in Japan as a sideshow option to bigger card games. In America and Europe, that option isn't really available due to the culture and competition. This leaves Vanguard in a completely unappealing state for new players. For the premium format, there's almost no locals and very few events. Bushiroad likes to schedule their premium events on the same day as Overdress in certain areas, so it's no wonder the turnout is super low. But for my locals premium day, there's usually people in the store playing Vanguard, but no one ever wants to play premium for one reason or another, and events won't fire. From what I hear, it's a very similar story for the few other Vanguard stores. I don't think Vanguard events are going to disappear entirely right off the back. Most of the players in the community are Stockholm Syndromed in, but in order to maintain itself, the community has to grow, and that's something they can't do right now. So Bushiroad is desperate to keep the game going. Prices are forcing out players, events are getting more and more scarce, so Bushiroad decides to release a $70 simulator for Vanguard Overdress, and then release Day 1 DLC that cost in total around $140. Master Duel and Magic Arena have been some of the biggest growth moments for their respective card games. Vanguard Overdress Deal Days will appeal to almost no one. Weirdly enough, the $70 price tag is only for certain regions, such as North America. Other regions like Brazil and Japan have to pay around $30 to $50 for the game. I'm not sure why this is. I think it's either a mistake the company is too proud to fix, or a direct move to get Vanguard pulled out of America. Wanting to charge money for your game is fine. Charging more than games like Breath of the Wild, God of War Ragnarok, and Super Smash Bros., just to name a few, is insane, and is actively tanking the game, especially when the competitors' games like Master Duel and Magic Arena are free. Dear Days should have been an injection of new players into Vanguard, but it's having more of a negative reaction than a positive. So outside of Premium, Vanguard's most competitive format has been considered to be V Premuim. Admittedly, it's my least played format despite how well liked it is. Unfortunately, V Premuim has had its scant product lines scrapped from production for at least 7 months, if not longer. I heard rumors that it's going to be for at least a year, but I can't verify that. This news is devastating for any card game and is usually considered a death toll. But for V Premuim, a format which has been left in a Tier 0 format after the last support, this is a perfect storm that can kill even a fan-favorite format. This segment is dedicated to the worst mechanic in all of trading card games, the Overtrigger. Vanguard gets a lot of its personality from its high variance, luck-based gameplay, but the Overtrigger is a flat-out anti-competitive floodgate. At its core, it's a randomized free game win or loss in almost every situation they activate in. Any player who values a card game for its competitive nature will avoid Vanguard for this reason, despite every player asked at events hating them and relentless polling showing how much Overtriggers are hated. The mechanic will stay legal in both the Overdress and Premium format, Premium being particularly bad as it has the most drive checks and deck thinning, all because someone at Bushiroad is too prideful to admit they messed up on a mechanic. All of this leaves Vanguard in a very miserable and hopeless state. I want to be able to, in a few years' time, to be able to say that Vanguard is in a happy state, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. They have a big series of old deck releases planned for Overdress that seem like fun, but I'm worried about power creep they're going to bring with them. Overdress has done a lot of power creeping and backtracking recently. They power crept the game dramatically with grade 4s and had to spend 3 sets in a ban list to finally backtrack and push them out of the meta. Promos have been addressed a bit by being moved to box toppers instead of event items, which is a good thing, but it means that Bushiroad had to give up on the fallacy of giving out promos due to abysmal player turnout. I worry that it'll be too late for Vanguard to recover. The game likely can't survive another reboot. I still play Vanguard from time to time, but I've almost completely completely sold out of the game. I'm really only still playing because I love the community, but that doesn't mean the game is sustainable. The community loses players constantly. This channel got its start in Vanguard, and I wish I could continue making content for it, but as it is, it's only actively hurting the channel to cover Vanguard content. It hurts me to see Vanguard content that gets my work and attention do poorly. Thanks to everyone who stuck with me for the past year and a half. I've got new stuff planned, and I'll be looking for a chance to come back to Vanguard, but it is on Bushiroad to fix things. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.